I want you to make a distinction between absolute truth as the actual thing being pointed at versus as dogma and as ideology. See, so there's a PreTrans fallacy that happens here. See, one of the problems with teaching about the absolute from a higher level perspective, from a sort of spiral dynamics tier 2 perspective, is that those at tier 1, when they hear about absolute truth, they will misconstrue it as pre-rational, falling into the PreTrans fallacy, and they will construe it as like, oh, well, Leo is talking about the absolute truth. That means he must be some sort of crackpot, religious fanatic, cult leader, because he actually believes that his beliefs are true, absolutely true. But that is not what Leo is saying. Leo is saying something much, much, much more nuanced and more radical and complex than this. I'm saying something trans, not pre. By trans, what I mean is that, so see, there's sort of 3 levels that humans go through. The first level is that humans get mired in absolute truth as ideology and dogma. This is what you see in the Middle East a lot. This is what you see in evangelical Christian circles. Orthodox religious traditions fall into the sort of spiral dynamic stage, red and blue, absolute truth. They actually believe that Jesus was the Son of God, this sort of stuff. Like, they take the Bible literally as absolute truth. This is a very low level of cognitive development. This is the pre-stage. Then you grow out of that and you reach the stages orange and green, where now you realize that that stuff wasn't literally true. The stories in the Bible aren't literally true. They're mostly just myths and exaggerations and so forth. You realize that at stage orange and green. And then to you, people who claim absolute truth, those seem like lunatics. You want nothing to do with those people. They seem unscientific. They seem religious. They seem small-minded. They seem myopic. They seem bigoted. Because usually people who latch onto absolute truth, they are bigoted. Literally, they're bigoted because their mind is so closed off to that little perspective. But you have to understand that that is not really absolute truth. That is just beliefs and dogma. And then so people who are at stage orange and green, this is perhaps one of the most dangerous stages, because here you actually are going to university, you're reading books, you're studying science, mathematics, logic, and all this, postmodernism, maybe even a little bit. You're studying this stuff, you're understanding this stuff. And now it seems to you that you have this scientific worldview that now you understand that relative truth, that absolute truth is just all, human constructions and such, and dogmas. And now finally you're free of such a silly notion. And you think you've made it. Well, you haven't made it. You're stuck in the middle. Now there's the trans level, the really complex advanced stuff, which is what I'm talking about. The position I'm talking about is the place that, okay, so you've discovered that those are all myths and stuff in the Bible and so forth. But then what about the actual shit that the Bible was pointing to? You say, well, that stuff, it didn't exist. The Bible was pointing to nothing. And that's where you're wrong. The Bible was pointing to something. It was horribly corrupted and misconstrued, but the Bible was pointing to something. What was the Bible pointing to? What was Jesus pointing to? What was the Buddha pointing to? What was Moses pointing to? What was Muhammad pointing to? They were pointing to absolute truth with a capital A, but you can't speak it. You can't logic it. You can't science it. You can't run an experiment on it. You can't validate it. And so the problem is that whenever I speak from that level, people assume that I'm speaking from just a religious dogmatic level. And that's really a shame. That's the PreTrans fallacy, so watch out for that. And it'll happen to you too. If you're going to be teaching others about this stuff, it'll happen to you. People will, even just using the word God. See, sometimes I hesitate to use the word God because I know that in any episode where I use the word God, immediately half the audience will think that I'm a stage blue religious fanatic or a Christian or an evangelical or something just for saying the word God. Just for saying that word. And then sometimes people say, well, Leo, why use that word? It's such a religiously loaded word. It's not a good word. Use a word like nothingness or something and it's better. Use a word like the universe. It's better. But actually, when you realize that you're God, you'll understand why that word is used. It's the perfect word. The problem is just it's corrupted. But it's always going to be corrupted. Any word you use for God will end up corrupted, so you can't avoid that problem. It's just the nature of the beast. Because you can't translate the absolute into any words.